Again, this is all part of our technical series. If you don't know Don Williams, he's been involved with cultural imaging for quite some time. So let me just read Don's bio. Don Williams is the founder of Image Science Associates, a group of elite specialists dedicated to science-based digital image capture protocols as reflected in the Golden Thread software and imaging targets they developed and evolved. His early 25-year career was in research imaging, was as a research imaging scientist at Eastman Kodak, where he was exposed to broad categories of digital and analog imaging modalities. Since 2007, he has worked with the world's largest library to help create and modify the FADGI still imaging guidelines and the supporting reference targets and software to support that effort. He's a participating member of the ISO TC42WG18 for digital capture performance metrics and was the editor for the ISO 12233 for camera and scanner resolution measurement. Don frequently teaches and consults on image quality, performance, and methods to accomplish accurate and consistent outcomes. Okay, Don, I'm not sure where you are, but if you are there, please come back on. Maybe we just lost Don. Let's just give him 1 minute to see if he can get back online. If that doesn't work, David, we'll do your presentation while we work out Don's technical difficulties. Okay, Don's having Wi-Fi issues, is what I'm hearing. It's one of the downsides of all this remote stuff. There's always a glitch here or there. Well, yeah. Why don't we do that? Why don't we just, while Don is dealing with his network at his office, why don't we just move along and go to our next presenter, who's Dave Weibel. Oh, Don's back.
Well, who knows why?
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Don, welcome back.
Okay.
Why don't you load up your presentation, and I'll give you the floor.
Oh wait, I thought you had the pack.
No,
There
well,
we
we
go.
do.
Okay.
You are ready to go. All you need to do is use your arrow keys, and I'll keep an eye on the admin chat in case we have some more technical stuff and so on and so forth. To everyone, Don Williams.
I will turn off my my.
You should turn on your camera. I'll turn off mine.
In one. Okay, let's get framed here correctly. Okay, I'll start. Hi, this is what I did on my my COVID-19 sabbatical. It really allowed me to concentrate on the extra items that I had never gotten to. So this was actually in many ways a benefit. What did we concentrate on? Better targets, better software, and better thinking. So I'll just get going, and what those are. There are 3 items there, and I call it the new image quality team. The beauty, the target, the brain is the new version of the Golden Thread software, and the BRAWN. The last one, to keep you staying in touch, it was that was actually inspired by Stuart Sneidman about 10 years ago at Stanford when we first visited him on image analysis and verification. And at the end of the meeting, I'll conclude that anecdote as what it was all about. So that'll keep you going. So let's start with the new target, the new FADGI target. We call it the beauty because I think it is actually. And what is it and why is it different? Well, recall there is this ISO standard 19264 that's meant to normalize measurement techniques and the kinds of features and targets that are used to extract those metrics. So we got on board with this. Remember, we had the original device target, but we were a little ahead of the game there. And that was instituted before the standard actually came to be. So we said, okay, we need to do another rev. and do it right. And I think we even went beyond what the standard requires. So I'll describe that here in about the next 5 or 6 slides. It's A4 size. It's on a rigid steel plate. We have a nice, we have a handling margin around it so that we're trying to prevent no dog-eared items near the edge. So you can handle it, and you won't be necessarily, unless you're careless, touching the target itself. We have the QR codes on it down in the lower left hand, and they're also OCR serialized. So what's that all about? So, by the way, we measure individually every one of these targets. We've learned that early on with some other customers, and we say, oh, we no longer use batch averages. We measure every single target, and we include those measurements in our number 2, the brain, the software, to extract those and use those very specifically. So we auto-detect that QR code and bring up that specific data set for that target that you're using. Even if you're using somebody else's target, it doesn't matter. It is. So no more cloud stuff looking for it. It's right there. And you can populate that as you see fit if you want to measure it yourself. As always, there's machine vision detect features. So you just point the software, we'll just be describing next, to the target. It'll find all the features. 99% of the time, sometimes. We have metric and inch dimensional scales. The overlay is a Canson semi-gloss paper. All the colors that you see there are subsurface, so they're mounted below surface. All the SFR features are flush mounted. And we, with a shout out to some folks like Larry Spivak, he mentioned, you know, you really need to keep the row column consistent with a CGATS type format. So, concluding here, it is fully compliant. See the plus, fully compliant plus to the ISO standard. Colors. I don't know if Andrew Bruce at the gallery in London sees it, but notice we have that the grayed out U just to give a nod to the EU community. This is what we call profile ready target. There's 168 unique colors. I want to emphasize no duplicates, no duplicates. These are all suitable for creating ICC color profiles out of the box. There's a concentration of cultural heritage content colors in mind, and the colors are heavily weighted in this, what they call 70 to 90 degree hue angle. It's the browns, it's the yellows, it's the parchments, it's the vellums, it's the yellowed type documents and content. There's Munsell colors, 16 gloss grayscales. We went with the natural color system colors, semi-gloss, for most of the colors. Again, all those colors are measured, QR coded, and they're all referenced in a database that is automatically pulled out. And again, there's an option to customize these with your user selected colors. So you say, oh, I want some high gamut color you don't have there done. Just let us know. We can create a custom one for you. It's not a problem. Just to give you a sense of where the colors lie in a two-dimensional sense, what you're seeing here is the A star, B star axes for the LAB color space. So what you're not seeing here is that lightness, but we can't do 3 dimensions on a two-dimensional screen. So to the left is where the colors lie with the color checker SG. So this is meant to give you some reference of where the colors lie between a popular target like the color checker SG and the FADGI target to the right. Now, there are differences, but we've actually maintained the same kind of thinking that the color checker SG does. If you notice in the 45-degree angle of the color checker SG, there's a high concentration of flesh tones. You can imagine why those were a high concentration because photographers were doing portraiture. They say, okay, we're not doing portraiture, but we're doing vellums, parchments, leathers, etc., we're going to move that hue angle a little bit to a higher degree, and you'll see in the center there's a higher population of what we call cultural heritage type color content. And we actually worked with the folks in Leuven, Belgium, to come up with some of these selections. It was actually a great experiment. A nod to Scott Gefford. If you know Scott, he likes the equal L-star scales, and that's in the 19264 standard. So we have included that here, and that's what's outlined in red there. They're spectrally neutral. They go from 95 to 10 in 5-star increments. We went one better than that. We don't have just increments. We have an entire gradient of L-stars. So that is a linear L-star gradient that goes from L-star 95 to L-star 10. So it's not just at 5 L-star increments, it's at any increment you want. So we have some tick locators in there to give you a sense of, oh, this is where we are in this particular L-star scale. Okay. Real resolution. I won't concentrate too much on this. There are, in the old dice device target, 5 SFR visual features, horizontal and vertical, from the center to the 4 corners, with central focusing aid in the center. Most of you are familiar with this already, so let's move on. Here are the extras that most of you are not familiar with. So, so those of you who do LCC with the Capture 1 and Phase 1 products, we can now actually measure that. And by the way, if you think you're doing that, we can now detect how well you are doing that with respect to the FADGI guidelines. So it's an 18% gray background over the A4 format. Now you say, well, how do you do uniformity measurements with all those other features in there? We sparsely collect over that, but that is an 18% uniform field. We couldn't do that with photographic techniques, so we did have to do that with inkjet, the gray parts, but it is uniform. We can also do, yes, we can do geometric distortion, and not just at the edges. We can do it over that entire field, and we can do that by using those little black dots. We are testing, we say we know where these are supposed to be, and we can tell where they have gone after capture. So it is a full field geometric distortion, not just an edge geometric distortion. There are white, gray, and black uniform fields across the top and the sides. These are very useful for detecting streaks and any kind of a spatial frequency component. You can do it in the black, gray, or white, and you do it in the horizontal. And by the way, at the very bottom right of that, there is what we call a staging area for probe materials. We've experimented with this. Sometimes there are, for instance, Pantone has come out with these D65, D50 lighting indicators. So if you see one patch is different from the other by a given visual amount, you'll say, oh, you don't really have a D65 here. It's something else. So those are what we call probe indicators, or sometimes UV indicators of if you see things starting to fluoresce in the red, green, or blue, there are materials we can include there to be an indicator of that. Let's go on to the brain. This is where we've really concentrated most of our effort, and it has been frustrating, but it is quite a bit different than, and have a lot of changes based on experiences from the original Golden Thread. So it analyzes reports and remediates image capture performance results. It can analyze the FADGI 19264 target that we just showed about, including all the other ones originally in the first software. It can create color profiles. I emphasize can, because some of these are still in process. We can create color profiles with Argyle and SpectraCore engines, color profiling engines. We're still working on basic color, and it was suggested, can you include Luma River? The whole idea here is we'll let you do anything you want. If you're more familiar with, for instance, basic color, then by all means use it. We'll just feed our data that we've already captured into those engines with a command line call and get the color profile for you. Now, it takes some challenge, but we can do it. There's all-in-one FADGI target color spaces, star levels displayed with the selectable color spaces. What do we mean by that? Yes, I'm even frustrated with the old software. I said, oh, so I have to select the color space. I have to select this. I have to select it. Well, that is mouse heavy. How do we get rid of that? So we've gotten rid of all that, and we just said, we're going to show you everything at once, and you'll see this in the presentation. We can now toggle between RGB and colorimetric performance reporting. The FADGI guidelines are slowly migrating to more of a colorimetric reporting now than in the past. But we know we can't just cut the cord. We've got to make that connection between what the camera sees and what the human sees. What the camera sees is RGB, what the human sees is colorimetric. We now have, you no longer have to contact me. Is there a new version done? The new software now has a cloud upgrade. It'll automatically check and it'll download and install at your desire. And as before, context-based FADGI star level reports. Let's go. Here's the home page. It supports, lower left, all the targets. It is now FADGI project aware. So in the number 2, instead of selecting Adobe RGB, whatever, or PPI, it says, just tell us what FADGI project you're interested in. They're built in, so there's no need to select the color space, DPI, or star level. We now display what particular target you're looking at up in on the top. It has some of these nice features you're familiar with in other software. You can magnify, roll over. By the way, many of you may not be familiar. In this, we have what we call a smart search option. And that's, it will look over each of those patches and avoid blemishes and dirt that are on that particular target. Because often you'll get sporadic results because, let's face it, when you're scanning at 300 DPI, a piece of dust will affect you. You're no longer at 25 DPI like you would be with a camera, just shooting at a distance. Here, some of it is the settings. We can go in. This is where all your preferences are that are saved. You'll also see that now that we have these star levels integrated into the software, somehow we have to display that so you can see, well, am I at the 4-star, 3-star level? So you assign colors, your own colors, whatever you prefer. You'll see that the ones I've selected, I said, okay, 4-star is green, 2-star is blue, etc., etc. And all the way at the bottom, the new part is under color. You can select what rendering intent you'd like, what your default color space is if there is none embedded in the image coming in, and which particular engine you would like to use if you want to create that color profile. Just a moment. Tone scale displays. This goes back to the bulletized item at the start of this portion of the talk, and that is we're now toggle between colorimetric and RGB modes. And they're not always equivalent, because if you're doing a convert from a profile, you might have a very, very good colorimetric report, but the RGB may not be because you've done this conversion. So here's one item where we're now trying to transition into the colorimetric reporting instead. And all these are toggleable. You can go boop, boop, back and forth with the radio buttons or whatever. We also have now dynamic pull down color space reports. So if you inadvertently said, oh, it's showing me the results for Adobe RGB, that's not what I wanted. I want to know the results under sRGB. Well, you just pull it down, click on sRGB. It'll dynamically update those for sRGB. So this gives you a sense of where you lie in your evaluations. Here's where we're now starting to use those colors to display different kinds of star levels. This allows you to give some more context of, oh, 90% of these are in the 3-star range and the rest are 2-star or 4-star. So we're trying to give you more of a sense of, oh, I'm just a little bit out into the, say, the 2-star range, the FADGI 2-star. So it allows you to a little bit more, well, let me say, diagnostic help in this regard, saying, oh, I'm not too bad. Where in the past, you'd just get a hard fail. And I know it's a little disappointing, but this helps you become less disappointed by just seeing the degree or the extent to which you might be within one of the star level ratings or not. And again, you can switch these back and forth between camera RGB or colorimetric. So the one in the lower right is the colorimetric, and we're doing that using the A star, B star colorimetric white balance. I know there's a lot here. We're trying to get this in the 30 minutes. Okay, let's go. Here's the lighting uniformity. Here's one example we received. Oh, from Hilda in Puerto Rico. She gave us some examples of using the target, and you can see that the green, the way I have coded it here, is very good. There's a couple of them outside of that, but who knows? That could be due to just about anything, maybe a glitch of dust or something. But generally speaking, here's how that lighting uniformity conformance is being displayed. That's in the upper right, all green. Below that is that linear gradient that we were using. And you can see it's a nice linear L star. Okay, and then I'll keep going because I got I'm starting to get the hook. Thank you, Peter. And we can just, maybe in our chat session or our questions in meeting rooms, we can discuss the other features of this lighting uniformity, especially the one to the upper left. Okay, just keep going. We've done the geometric distortion. I'll keep going here, but you can scale each of these little arrows, and each of those arrows indicate the extent to which those areas are removed from where they should be. Now, you can see some of these are displayed at very, very small pixel levels, 1.4 pixels. Well, that's sort of within our margin of error for this particular application. But just to keep it going, we can discuss that further also. Resolution, we now check the metadata in the image. And if that metadata is not consistent with what we measure, we will report. We use the metadata AIM as our measurement protocol. So we're no longer relying on you to tell us what it is. We are relying that you are populating that metadata in the resolution data properly, and that's what we check against. And finally, the display options. This is a bit of a display summary. This is now where you see everything, and again, it gives you that context between colorimetric and RGB. So in the lower right that's how the camera sees it without any regard to any particular profile. But then if you say, oh, I'm going to use the Argyle profile or some basic color profile, we can do that too. And you can see, oh, colorimetrically, we do much better than the way the camera sees. And finally, I'll conclude my anecdote by Stuart Sneidman, who's no longer at Stanford. I think he's on the dark side now. He's over at Harvard. But just a joke. When we had our meeting with Stuart, he says, so we were excited. We said, what do you think, Stuart? Isn't this stuff great? He said, yeah, he said, you know, it really is. But, and here's the but, he says, I don't want you to tell me what's wrong. I want you to fix it. And that's when the penny dropped. He said, oh, it's the remediation. We got to get stuff done. So that's what we've done with this Golden Touch remediation. We have two different versions of it. We're trying to merge them together, but it's target-based post-processing correction and crop software. Briefly, handles device and object level targets, 8/16 input-output bit depths. It can crop and deskew. It has both a GUI and a command line option. It lets you select the color spaces that you want to remediate to. It also replaces incorrect sampling frequencies based on the measurements that we drew. And as soon as I move this, just a moment, it won't perform miracles, by the way. If you're in the ditch, I'm sorry, we can't help you. If you're badly focused, we don't handle focus. We do tone, color, and white balance. So this is not meant to make you sloppy. It's just meant to coach you a little back to where you're supposed to be. And I think here's some examples of what we've done. This is some work from the Archives of American Art in Washington, where there was a misstep on some selection. We were able to take that by using that target and knowing what that target is. We can correct the one on the left is what it was. The one on the right is where it should be based on that target correction. Some examples. Here it was. This is what it was before. This is what it was after. You can see that it met that curve very nicely. And so finally, Peter, I think I'm right on time now, thanks to your coaching. So any questions? Okay. Sorry for the interruption in the beginning. Don't know why we couldn't connect after all that preliminary stuff going on.
Don, again, thank you so much. I'm going to read you the questions as they pop up.
Okay.
Where can we find the values for the tone scale? This is from Hilda in the Puerto Rican archive.
You can find those by asking me. We haven't put those up on the website yet, but basically it's just a big Excel document with different tabs, and you can say, okay, here they are. Right now we're just doing the we do have all the spectral information for them, but right now we're just displaying the LAB data at D50. So we do have those. So write me, Hilda, where have you been?
Next question. Will the GT NXT software display reports also for ISO 19264 levels?
Yes. Well, we're displaying them for the FADGI levels right now. So there's a little confusion on this. The levels in the informative annexes of the 19264 are not currently displayed. I mean, it's easy to do. Those were adopted from the Metamorphosa guidelines in Europe, and they are meant to be informative and, as they say, not normative. So right now we're concentrating on the categories in the FADGI levels. So just to be honest with you, if you're referring to the informative levels in the 19264 document, no.
Can you create your own project definitions?
Oh, Matt, I think I know who you are, Matt. Yes, 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 you can. In fact, we found a little glitch, and if this is the Matt who I think it is, maybe not, you can do that, yes. In fact, this is great because people think the FADGI guidelines are strict laws. And as Jean-Luc Picard says, no laws are absolute. So we use them as guidelines. If you find, for instance, that for my collection, for my particular set of contents, I can put up with something a little different in terms of, you can do that. You can go in, set it in the wizard, and set a different set, and save that as your own custom project. Yes, you can. Mm-hmm.
Okay, our next question is from Jens. What is the difference in color range compared to the DT NGT2?
There is very little difference in the color range. So if you think of the range as like a gamut, in some of the hues, we have a higher amount of chroma, and in some we don't. So it's, I would say they're equivalent in terms of the range. Yes. There are some differences depending on the hue, but they're pretty much the same.
Another question from Jens. Does the GT NXT handle other targets? QA62, color checker semi-gloss, etc.
Yeah, it does handle the color checker SG. It also handles the 24 patch, the NGT V2. You see me closing my eyes, concentrating here. By the way, we do have the UTT target on hold right now, but you'll see in our selection criteria, it's grayed out because we wanted to concentrate on this one for now. It does do all the object level targets. And by the way, that's where we improved the software too. You no longer have to tell it what size target it is. With the serial numbers on the object targets, it'll OCR the serial number and say, oh, this is the small object level target versus the large one or the middle sized one. So that's all automated now. Yeah.
Question from Jens again. What size, how much are CA are the patches? What size? I'm not sure what CA means.
Yeah.
Is it possible to make measurements with an i1 Pro?
Yes, absolutely. If you feel uncomfortable or something has changed with your own measurements, you say, oh, so for instance, right now the measurements we make on those are all 45-0 color geometrics on the measurements. Some folks say, I would prefer to have a sphere-based measurement. You can do that. It's basically a text editable file. You go in, you put in the data, you close it, you have to indicate the serial number so that the software knows what to look for, but that's easily done. And I think Tom Rieger has done this with one of his targets. We just coach him, say, okay, just measure them, put them in this, open this text file, put it here, put it there, go.
Jennifer, will the remediation software be available for a Mac platform?
Possibly, yeah. Because most of our code is written in LabVIEW because of all the nice vision features, the autonomous vision features. Those libraries have been great in keeping the costs down. But the one version of Golden Thread, in fact, could be turned into a Mac version. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Software perform better on a networked versus a non-networked computer?
Oh, I don't think there should be any difference. with a name like Xander, I know how to get in touch with you. Yes.
Other versions.
Boy. Help me along there, Nathan. Ask another question. So when you say so for instance, on the object level targets, we now have flexible versions. So I don't think that's what you're referring to. So versions can take a number of different media types. So other versions. We make flexible versions for sheet fed scanners. Okay. Nathan. Oh, you all have unique names, so I have a picture of who you are, Nathan. Oh, for the color patches.
For the color patches.
Well, to the extent that our offer holds for custom colors, we can do that. I don't expect to make another version largely available. They would be custom ones for if you wanted a different color target, different colors, we can do that. But we weren't going to make a whole new category of, oh, this one is just for vellums and parchments. But if you work with us, we can find other colors to put in there.
So Don, I have a request.
Speak to me.
It's kind of a glossary thing. You mentioned it a few times, RGB versus colorimetric.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for this audience, it might just be kind of nice just for you to give kind of a layman's explanation of the differences between both.
Okay. I think I've had some practice in this. I'll give you some background first. And so, well, why didn't we just do it in the beginning? Well, here's why. When we started this effort in the way back, about 10, 11 years ago, nobody understood what colorimetric meant except maybe Dave Weibel, myself, and a number of other people who deal with color all the time. And they say, well, I just get something from a camera. Yeah, you get RGB values from the camera, but that's the way the camera sees it. But via a color profile, custom or otherwise, we turn those RGB numbers, the way the camera sees it, into the way a human sees it. So you've transformed from the camera into a human space, a human color space now. And because we started with RGBs, because that's all anybody understood. And you say, we don't want to delve. How do you remediate issues if all people understand are red, green, and blue, 0, 255? Yes, that's right. So now, so that's the whole transition. We're trying to say, okay, we're not going to emphasize the way the camera sees it. We're going to emphasize the way the human sees it. And that is, in a nutshell, the difference between RGB and what they call LAB or colorimetric. So how does that resonate with you, Peter?
I think we have time maybe for another question, and then we'll have to move on.
Oh, will there be a new object level target? We've been asked this several times, and maybe now, well, we could make an object level target with 168 patches on it. I will tell you that is not a high priority right now. It really isn't. The attitude we're taking is that the object level targets should be used as more of a quality assurance tool to track less populated colors in a workflow. And that if any one of those go awry, then you can say, okay, we better go back and maybe color profile. I tell you, we do not emphasize or encourage people to generate a good color profile with just the 30 patches in the object level target. It can be done. You can generate a color profile with 24 patches. You have to question, okay, how resilient is that color profile?
Mm-hmm. Well, Don, we're going to have to end your session. And again, I'm sorry to the attendees that we had so many collisions up front. But I do again recommend that folks who have more questions go join Don in the breakout session. In case anyone's interested in acquiring some of Don's software, targets, and so forth, obviously Digital Transitions carries all his products. Again, thank you, Don, so much for this.